What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS Season 17, Episode 13, Sound Off. I do like the pun. That was probably the only thing I liked about this episode, though. So when the title of the episode is your best thing, there's a problem. So first of all, the case in this episode, not terrible, but again gets bogged down in what it's wanting its message to be, which is like, oh, disabled people just have just as much right to serve as anybody else. And here's the thing, I like how it ended. I like it perfectly fine. This girl's hearing impaired, so she can't serve in the army. She can't go out and fight, but she could still help. She could still use her expertise that she has from before she was hearing impaired to help now. That's perfectly fine. But this episode seemed too focused on trying to make it seem like, no, we're the bad ones for not letting disabled people fight in our army and our military. Here's the problem. I mean, just kind of taking it down a notch, look at competitions, right? Sports. You look at the Olympics. You're not going to let some disabled person compete on the top Olympics team. That's why they have the Paralympics, Because you want the best of the best to be competing for you. Well, in war, you don't want somebody who's way down here to be fighting your battles for you, because that's going to put you at a disadvantage. So, yes, I'm not saying that disabled people shouldn't be able to help if they can, but to try to appease somebody because, oh, well, my dad, he wanted me to be in the army. Well, guess what? My dad wanted me to be a professional soccer player. I'm nowhere near that. So I wish I could be. I wish I could make him proud and go do that, but I don't have the ability to go do that. I don't have the physical capabilities to go do that. So, I'm here doing videos on the internet because that's what my abilities have led me to. So I don't know. It just felt like, again, I like how it ended. I was fine with that. I was like, good, she has something that she can do. She can still help because it's what she wants to do. But it's also catering to her capabilities at the moment because she can't be out in combat. But we saw at the beginning of this episode why her hearing impairment can be a harm, because if she had been able to hear this guy who was telling her not to fire the rocket, then she wouldn't have blown up her boyfriend's body and removed all this evidence. So clearly at the beginning of this episode we see why a lot of the points being made by people like Casey and people by, I think Ellie made the same point too. This is why you're wrong. Because she can't clearly do her job to the top of her abilities. And whenever you're at wartime especially, if you can't do the job to the top of your abilities, that's going to be a lot of problem, not just for you, but for everybody else around you too. So there's my 2 cents on that. And then the other part of this episode, Jimmy and his search for an assistant, was stupid. It was just absolutely, it was, again, I've said this before this season, it was like they were writing for a sitcom, and NCIS is not a sitcom. It's a crime show with some comedy. So yes, have your comedic moments, have your moments where McGee and Torres are doing the interrogation, and McGee's like, it just feels so right. And Torres is like, I agree, it does feel so right. It's kind of funny, it's a joke, it's not something that would probably be in a normal interrogation, but it's part of the show. They do make some jokes whenever they're doing the job. This was just, it would never even come close to happening in real life. You wouldn't have an assistant come in who is apparently afraid of kneecaps and doesn't know how to handle a dead body, doesn't know left from right. You wouldn't have a guy come in who apparently loves sawing bodies up. And I just love the sound of a bone saw going through bone. You wouldn't have that guy being able to be interviewed to be an assistant because he would have already been flagged as a possible serial killer, honestly. And then to top it all off, honestly, I'm glad that they didn't go with this guy because they already went with one like, oh, Casey is just like Abby, guys. So I really was worried that this guy, this Crane guy, was going to come in and he was going to be just like Ducky. And oh my gosh, now Jimmy is basically teaching a younger Ducky. Isn't it hilarious? So I'm glad that they kind of moved him on because that would have been annoying to have to see for more than an episode. So that ended up being just a funny little joke, but I couldn't really enjoy it at the time because in my mind I'm thinking he's going to be the new assistant. So essentially now they've already replaced Abby with another Abby-like, and now they're going to replace Ducky with another Ducky-like. And I'm just like, no, that's stupid. It's stupid. So, I don't know. Just a lot about this episode was very frustrating. I really want the show to get back to where I could just sort of watch it and be like, yeah, this episode was fine. Nothing really that stupid in it, but it feels like there's a lot of bad writing and a lot of stupid decisions going on right now. And just stuff that's not really making me laugh either. And that's kind of a big problem because whenever I watched the show before, it was able to at least make me laugh. So now that they're not doing that, I think the problems with the show are becoming a lot more apparent to me, which is why I'm complaining about it a lot more. So, anyways, that's it for this episode. On to the next episode. See you there. And now episode 14, On Fire. So this one was okay. You know, the added tension of Torres being in the hospital, it did kind of up the ante a little bit in this episode, but for the most part it was still kind of dumb overall. There were some few dumb moments throughout. One that comes to mind, and maybe it's just because, again, I'm not a big fan of Casey right now, but the scene with her whenever she's talking to Gibbs on the earpiece about Torres. First of all, it's a joke that's been done to death because, I mean, they were making that joke back when Bluetooth earphones first came out. But here's the thing. Here's what doesn't make sense about it, aside from the fact that it's an overused joke, it's so cliche and it's dumb. Nobody looks right in the eyes of somebody else when they're talking on the phone and pretends like they're having a conversation with them. Nobody does that. Second of all, Casey can hear McGee when he comes in. She also sees him, because again, she's looking right at him, and not once does she go, like most people would normally do in that situation. She just keeps talking, that's great. Actually, it's not great. We have a lot of pictures that go, that's fantastic news. Nobody does this. Okay, it's not funny most of the time because, again, this joke is so cliche, but in this case, it was so unrealistic that it just made it exceptionally stupid. Oh, God. It's like this forced comedy that doesn't work. So nobody's laughing at it. So I don't get it. It's dumb. But again, I think that's probably because my frustration with Casey's character right now, the fact that the writing for her is not good anyway, and then you give her an awful little cliche joke like that, it's just going to raise my frustration with it all that more. Outside of that, some of the stuff, I don't know, some of the stuff with Bishop in this episode didn't really work for me because they seem to imply at the end that Gibbs is the one that went in and killed off this Russian kid or whatever. And yeah, it's pretty dumb that he's just like, oh, well, we have sovereign immunity, so we're good to go. I can do whatever I want. Like, that is really dumb, and I don't think that should be a thing, but I guess it still kind of is these days. I don't really know for sure. I don't know how all the rules work. There should be some exceptions to the rule, though. Like, if he kills somebody or seriously injures somebody, like, there should be some punishment there. But anyways, they did pick a really good guy to like play this character because he is such a good job of playing the sleazy, just you hate him. Every time he was on the screen, I just wanted to go into the show and punch him in the face because he was that type of character. So he did a really good job playing an asshole. But as far as what it meant for Bishop, like seeing her go to this deep dark area, I mean, I get it. I understand it because, again, they are setting up this whole relationship between her and Torres, which, again, they seem to be setting it up, but then they also, in the same episode, will talk about why it's not going to work. You know, like the last episode where Torres was talking to Jimmy about it, and Jimmy was like, yeah, there's no chemistry there. I'm like, okay, so you're still setting it up, even though you're telling us it's not going to work. And then in this episode, McGee's like, yeah, I mean, Bishop's like a sister to me, and Torres is like a brother. Essentially saying, like, they're basically like siblings to him, and this is going to be weird if they do decide to get together, so telling me why this is not going to work, but still setting it up like it's supposed to work. Why? I don't get it. But anyways, what Bishop was doing in this episode, I don't really know how I feel about it, because a lot of it is just kind of like they wanted to make her seem like she was going to this darker place, seem like she might be going a little too far, but then it seems like she didn't. And what's weird about that is if Gibbs is actually the one that took the shot, first of all, they sort of played it off like a joke at the end of the episode. Like, I've seen this type of setup before where it's like, wait a minute, if you didn't do it and she didn't do it, then who did it? it was Gibbs. Like, that's how they played it off. And I'm like, he killed a man, possibly. That doesn't make any sense. Why is this being played off like one of those sitcom routines? What? But in that case, then what was Bishop doing the night before? Did she really go work from home? Like, that doesn't make any sense. What? So there's a lot of questions that they just sort of left up in the air. I don't know if this is going to ever get revisited or if this is just going to be kind of a one-time thing and then we're done. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of that I feel like they didn't really think through when they were writing it, which, I mean, it's kind of on brand for this season, to be honest. But it just kind of frustrated me because I felt like there were some good moments with Ellie in this episode. But then in the grand scheme of things, what it meant for her character, it didn't really change much, and it made some of her decisions look even weirder whenever you get to the end of the episode. So, I don't know. Again, we might decide to revisit it at some point. I don't know for sure. I feel like the fact that one of them might have shot this Xavier guy in the head, it's a very good chance we will be coming back to it. But if that's the case, then when is that going to be? And also, how did they know to put him in the bathtub for his girlfriend's, because they didn't know she was his girlfriend at the time. How did they know to put him in there to frame her? You know, maybe one of them did figure that out. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of questions there and a lot of frustration because I feel like there was some potential with Bishop that wasn't really fully realized because they decided to kind of play with our expectations too much in this episode. And on that note, I will also say I did like the twist where we find out, because I kind of caught on to that early. You know, it's one of those things that maybe because I know the formula so well, but also they did drop some hints. The fact that whoever was driving was clearly doing a good job of like pretending like they were driving extremely recklessly, but also doing a good job of missing people just enough to show that, okay, so whoever's in there, they're going to say that, oh, it's just a drunk accident, but no, this was a targeted hit towards Torres because they were missing, and then rammed right into him. So I already kind of caught on that maybe this was going to be a targeted thing. But to find out that it was actually the girlfriend, I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of an interesting twist. She actually wanted him out of the way. She thought she could frame her boyfriend for that, which again leads more, I guess, credence to the idea that she didn't kill him because he was supposed to be her fall guy. But one thing I will say though, my one problem with the twist is they kept showing her throughout the episode. These little random scenes where she's walking out with her yoga mat. She's like, oh, what's going on? Get back in your room. Do you guys even have a day job? Okay, so clearly she's going to be important because you wouldn't just give this random character these lines. Like, they don't do that. I should know. I was technically given lines in Hawkeye even though I didn't actually say them because they wanted somebody to say something in that scene, but they didn't want to pay me to say it, so they just had somebody ADR in some lines. So whenever you actually give a character some lines, they're going to be more important down the way. You know, we know they're going to be more important than just a little, oh, she's just walking by. She's just some random person. She's not a random person. I can't believe it. It was just kind of stupid though in both of those scenes, but whatever the case, that's about it for this episode, so on to the final of these three. I'll see you there. And now, episode 15, Lonely Hearts. So a third, rather bland, boring, kind of stupid episode to wrap up these three. And yeah, I mean, overall, the case was just pretty straightforward. Everybody's so convinced it's this woman that Phil is seeing, and everybody's just like, it's gotta be her. She's a serial killer. She looks like she might have killed her husband. Oh no. And ultimately, of course, that's not what it is. It's actually, she did kill her husband, which was a good twist. I did like that. But, you know, one of his family members is trying to come after her and I guess taking out the men close to her because he loves her. He feels like all of them are harming her, even though I don't think they were. But whatever. It was just kind of dumb, I guess. The other side of things with the Valentine's Day was perfectly fine. You know, it actually ended up being pretty sweet because there were some decent jokes about Sloane wanting to kind of maybe wanting the chocolates and card to come from Gibbs, and there's a hint that maybe it did, and then all of a sudden finding out that it was actually another woman whose name was Sloane Jackson or something like that. Got it mixed up. I'm like, first of all, who names their kid Sloane? Like, the last name, you can't help that, but who names their baby girl Sloane? Like, that's just, I feel bad for that girl. But ending up being from Faith, though, she actually did get some chocolates. That was nice. I like that scene. I really do kind of feel for what Jack is going through, and just as far as her whole relationship with her daughter that she gave away. So I do like what they've done with that story so far, and I would like to see it progress a little bit more. Honestly, maybe give it a little bit more focus. But as far as some of the other scenes that stood out, they did decide, the earphone bit, it actually was so not interesting and stupid and cliche in the last episode. So let's do it again in the next episode. I mean, I honestly, I couldn't believe it. I had to rewind it to see, did they actually just do the earphone bit again? Where McGee walks in and thinks that Jimmy is now talking, not to him this time, he thinks he's talking to a dead body, but it's actually talking on his earphone to his wife. Twice now. Twice. And here's the thing, both times doesn't make any sense. Because the last episode, like I already talked about, Casey would not continue on a conversation looking at McGee when she sees he's trying to talk to her without mentioning something. In this one, Jimmy just keeps talking to the dead body. He should hear the doors behind him open. But no, he's just, yeah, I'm so sorry. I wish there was another way. I love you, though. Huh. I'm just going to keep talking to my wife on the earphone, but looking at the dead body, even though I just heard somebody. I'm not going to turn around and look to see who just came in. So that was dumb. God, there was something else I just had, now I've lost it, because I went on a rant about the headphone bit. The whole thing with Torres, kind of, I've seen it done before, and at least they did it okay, where Torres didn't try to push himself too hard, and he did realize at the end, maybe I need to take a step back and just rest because I'm not feeling myself. So at least they didn't make it something stupid where he ended up pushing himself way too hard and then re-injuring himself or costing the case. Or he did the smart thing. He gave the keys, or well, actually, Bishop gave him the keys so he could head back to the office while they went and solved the situation on their own. Oh, right. How could I forget? It was the dumbest thing in this episode. Phil. So I do remember Phil, but I also don't. I don't really remember how he and Gibbs became friends. I know he just sort of showed up at the cabin this one time, and I don't know. I don't really remember much about him. I just remember being annoyed whenever he showed up. So now this episode mostly focused on him because he's dating this woman that everybody believes to be the killer, blah, blah, blah. Why do the writers of the show think that they're writing for a sitcom? Because that's the only explanation as to why Gibbs would decide, you know what? You know how we're going to get the hair of this woman to test and see if it matches the hair at the crime scene? We're going to send in Phil. The guy that messes up literally everything. Explain this to me, please. Because Gibbs is supposed to be a smart guy. Gibbs is supposed to be intelligent. He's supposed to be one step ahead at all times, it seems like. Why the hell would he think sending Phil in is at all going to work out? You know it's not going to. You know he's going to get caught. You know he's going to get exposed for trying to get a piece of hair for her, or from her, to give to them. You know all this isn't going to work out, and you still do it anyway. It doesn't make any sense. It's completely out of character for Gibbs. It's completely done just for there to be a funny moment. Oh, we should have a code word, maybe like kumquat, or pineapple, or maybe something a little bit more spy sounding, like Treadstone. This isn't funny. Him doing stand-up in the car to Gibbs and McGee is not funny. And then he goes inside, and what do you know? He forgot the code word because she caught him snooping. Instead of, like, actually checking to see and quickly grabbing a hair off her brush, he's like, it's not funny. It's not funny. And then to make it even less funny, she's got a knife Which I guess is supposed to be like, oh, he's in danger. Oh, what's the code word? Calm, quiet. No. It was Treadstone. And then she's like just waving the knife around, like, oh, I can't believe you would do this to me. Who talks like that? Who just sits here with a knife and just like, I don't understand how you couldn't trust me. How could you not trust? Who does that? Nobody. Ow. Pinched my finger. I got too angry. But I don't get it. Like, this show was not this stupid before, right? I feel like I honestly might have to go back and just rewatch from the beginning and see if I was just blinded, because I don't know, maybe I just enjoyed the characters too much, or maybe I wasn't using my brain at the time and I just turned it off and just, it's funny, she waving knife around like, ooh, she's so scary, but she's not actually scary. It just doesn't make any sense. I hope I'm not the only one. I hope I'm not just like sitting here complaining, everybody else just like, yeah, it's not that bad. Because some people, I mean, granted, they have 3 more seasons after this one, so I guess it's not dumb enough for anybody to really get upset about it. But for me personally, I enjoyed this show for so long. I felt like I did want to see more. I did want to see more of this team, them interacting, them solving cases together. I wanted to see that. And now it just feels like I don't want to see another episode. But there's still more. So it's very frustrating for me. And I don't know whether it's just the writing has gotten worse, the writing team maybe changed, or if they're just running out of ideas. You know, if they're just trying whatever. Let's just start doing some sitcom-y stuff and having these stupid things happen. And maybe some of this will get a laugh. We'll just throw shit at the fan and see what hits. No. Shit at the wall. Let's see what sticks. I don't know. I'm so tired and brain dead from this episode. I'm losing my mind. But anyways, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about, discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future NCIS reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.